Welcome to Critical Café,
Join us as we chat about the latest episode,
the campaign as a whole, and Critical Role in general.
all while we partake in a delicious cup of coffee. So grab yourself a tasty beverage
Settle into your favorite cozy spot.
and get ready for a little geek philosophy. Oh no.
Oh no! Where
I
did
promise
Brian
I'm here,
go?
everybody. I promise I'm here.
Hello,
I
welcome
was
to
here just a
Critical
second ago.
Cafe.
Yeah. So while I'm...
Crystal and the Invisible Man.
That's right. The not so critical cafe is happening right now. Let's see if I can get my camera back up and running. I promise, right before we went live, everything was running perfectly.
It was running great, yes. And then all of a
So,
sudden, I'm here all
That's just-
alone.
yeah, there
Oh,
we
there
go.
you
All right,
are.
so that's just the way it works when we have technical difficulties. Let me see if I can fix my lighting again. All right, well, that may happen again. Who knows? Welcome to Critical Cafe. As you can see, I am in fact here. I am Brian. Here is Crystal, as always. It's better that my camera cuts out than it is Crystal's camera. So people would much rather see Crystal on screen than me. So
I doubt it.
we'll see how it goes. We'll keep the cameras running. If you're new to the show, let me do a quick introduction. This is Critical Cafe on Geek Philosophy's channel. We talk about all things Critical Role. If you're joining us for the first time here, welcome. If you are a regular Geek Philosophy viewer and are checking out Critical Cafe live for the first time, welcome to you as well. Sometimes we've got some of our audience that likes to stick around for the D&D and role-playing game type videos that we produce. Others are really big fans of Critical Role as well, and they kind of watch these. And then for those of you, which is a large majority of you that watch the channel that are not subscribed, please help us out by subscribing. We probably have about 90% of the people that watch our channel aren't subscribers. So please do us the favor of subscribing. Doesn't cost anything. It gets you, notifications whenever we put something out, and it really does help us out.
And
what
you can
else?
chat with
and-
us, right?
Yeah, and then
Because our
as a
chat is subscriber only.
That's right. You'll be able to chat with us as we are running our Critical Cafe live, which is really the purpose of this, is us, talking about what we love in the latest Critical Role. So this gives you a chance to talk about it too. So if you're joining us, please make sure you jump into the chat. And then when we break over to our chat segment, you guys can pop up on screen with your thoughts as well. So
Yes.
it'd be great. If you're catching this recorded, though, you can add your comments to the video and we'll reply to those as best we can to make sure that we keep you in the loop and give you our thoughts on your thoughts. So lots going on because we had, I was actually traveling last week and I had a flight delay and didn't get back in time to run the show. It was good travel. I was traveling for work, but had a really great time with my team from work. We were doing a lot of great stuff, planning for the rest of the year, but also got a chance to do a little team building. And if you haven't done this and they have one near you, they have this series of locations called Beat the Bomb, where you go through and you do, as a team, you go through all these challenges. And at the end, there's like a timer with a bomb, and if you beat it, you win. If not, there's a big paint thing that explodes all over everybody. It's pretty crazy. I will say, I did get a chance to do the Mission Impossible roll under a laser at some point during this, so it was pretty great. So thanks to everybody on my team for, not my team, our team. I'm not the lead of that team, but just we worked together and had a great time. So it was awesome.
It sounds a little bit like old school Nickelodeon, you know?
It was kind of like that.
Or splattered or something, you know?
Yeah,
Back
it
in
was
the
a little bit like
90s
Double
and
Dare.
early
Yeah.
2000s.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's funny.
The pictures were really good. Yeah. It looked like you guys had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Anything from your perspective we need to catch up on, or we'll jump right in?
No.
No?
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm
awesome.
furiously coloring away on new stickers.
Yeah, that's right. We've got new
So-
stickers that are happening. So check out. Oh, I'm gone
Oh
again.
no, you went away again.
I don't know what's happening. All right.
Yeah, so there's a possibility that we're going to be at a con in October, and I have been lollygagging. How many times do you get to say that word, lollygagging? I've been lollygagging on my sticker making, so hopefully I'll be able to bang out all the packs, all the different stickers prior to the show and have them with us when we're there. And then the other hope is that we'll follow that up with MegaCon afterwards. But, getting these uh, things ready, because I have jewelry, I've got stickers, we've got all kinds of fun stuff. But um, getting all of it ready is a little daunting. You don't really know how much to make. So just making earrings and making jewelry and making stickers. So
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun if we can get this all pulled together for the con that we're going to. We'll have a lot of fun there. But also, again, we'll have stuff on the Etsy store as always, so
yes,
you can order through there too. So
yes,
if you're not in our
definitely.
area, we'll check it out. We'll see if this continues. I'm switching to camera, my alternate camera, so we'll see how this moves,
Fingers
and I might have
crossed.
to adjust it as we go. So fingers crossed this works better. Let's jump right in. We've got two. I might have to do this every time I switch my scenes, but we'll make it work. There we go. We've got 2 episodes this week to catch up on, guys. So we're going to start with episode 64 of Campaign 3, which is Reunited, aptly named.
Yes,
And
finally.
let's jump right in. Yeah, I know, right? So we finally get the whole group back together, in addition to all of the other guest stars that were on the show, which was, pretty amazing to have everybody on the screen.
Yes.
So we've got I'll jump into this, but I'm gonna probably break pretty frequently to make sure that we keep things moving, so that Crystal can jump in with her thoughts and I can talk about mine. But let's dive through. So, they are basically all trying to get back to where they're going. So they attempt to use Imogen attempts to use the staff to teleport them. They have a few issues getting there.
Oh my
They find
goodness.
themselves near the mountaintop of Volantim, and the high peaks of the Sirius Mountains and the Dwendalian Empire, and they've got these guards that approach them, and then they try to tell them it's an accident. It gets a little crazy. They fly them down basically, and FCG's freaking out because they're bird people, and his fear of birds, which was pretty crazy. And then they're able to sort of calm him down. Frida gives him a kiss and calms him down a little bit, which is nice. But the staff doesn't have enough charges to go, so they have to camp. And this is where Frida actually casts Detect Thoughts on FCG, and finding an intent to kill is sort of part of that personality that FCG has. So they're sort of getting a glimpse of what's going on. They also see someone building FCG and things being enchanted in his head. So it's interesting to kind of get a glimpse at that. In the morning, they're able to teleport, and they this time arrive safely in Drusar. And Ruidus is still in that locked position. The city is under heightened security. They've got the magical lights have sort of diminished a bit. People are on edge. And then Deanna scries on Laudna, and this is where we see sort of this, or Deanna sees this image of Imogen or Laudna in the cave, sort of, bundled up or curled up, and Imogen is really happy to just know that Laudna is around and, safe-ish, and they try to do the sending, but it's still not working. So they head to the Soot and Swill and try to find out, hey, did Laudna leave word there? They talk to Pretty, who is happy to see them, but hasn't got any information for them. He's like, it's been a strange few days. There's been a lot of strangers going around. There's a lot happening, as you can expect. And then Quorum Representative is using a magical platform, a broom skipper, to help kind of move people around the city, because transportation around there is kind of shut down a little bit. So there's a long line to kind of do this, but Imogen convinces them that they're here on business of the King and Queen of Uthadern, and Fern wild shapes into a raccoon dog, and everybody fits into the broom skipper, and they or broom skipper, and they move to the core spire. So let's take a quick break over and catch up to where we are so far. I'm gone, but I'll be back in a second. So what do you think?
So far, Group A or whatever we want to call them, Group One,
Yep.
they make it back to Drusar, and their hope is that the other group is already there, and that they can pick up the breadcrumbs to kind of find them. Because again, the magic has been kaputs, like they're not able to do sending, they're not able to telepathically talk to each other, they're not able to, finally she was able to scry and see that she's alive and she's somewhat safe, but in a cave, so that doesn't really sound like she's in Drusar. And so they just start like one by one knocking on doors of places that they've all gone to together as a group to see if they can find anyone or if anybody's heard from them. And so I really like the fact that they went and like stopped in at the Sit and Swill, and they got Purdy up, I guess, because it was pretty early in the morning, right? Yeah, early in the
Yeah.
morning, to come out and talk to them. So we got to see him again, and he was excited to see the group, the girls, but nobody's seen him. So they don't really have any clue where the other group might be, except for the fact that there's a increased military presence in the city, that a lot of the oh gosh, what are they called, the platforms aren't working, the cable
Yep.
cars ish
Yep.
aren't working between the towers. And so they found, I guess this one mage was using this broom skipper or whatever thing, and people were paying, I think, to get him to move them up and down, so they were able to get onto one of those to move up to the next spire. um but so far we haven't heard anything about the other group yet.
Yeah, and it's also like I find it interesting because this is sort of one of those things where we all know what's like the status of things. What I was curious about, like from a gaming perspective, is how much each of the groups know about what was going on in the games. Like how much, um,
Like,
as
were they
players,
watching in
yeah, like did
between
they
their
watch?
sessions?
Yeah, and so it was interesting to kind of see, like how this is playing out. It's I'll say that like from a DM perspective, anytime you have a split party like this and you have to run separate sessions, which I've done a few times in the past, it is a challenge to like bring everybody back together because everybody knows that you're bringing them together. All the players know that you're trying to get everybody back together, and you have to do it in a way that doesn't feel railroaded. Like it's just,
Yeah.
unless everybody decides, oh, we're just going to decide that the characters are back together next time. But it's a little bit trickier because this is also a show, right? So
Right.
there has to be a narrative that we can all watch too. So I just find it interesting. Like this is the first major time where we've had this many characters apart that need to come back together for this long. And so scenes like this where they're trying to find their way back and like the transportation issues and like going to talk to people, it's just cool because it's what you would do in that situation. You would go talk to the people that are common friends, and you would go back to the last place that you think that they would try to
Yes.
go to. So it's
Yep.
played out really well. It all makes sense. It doesn't feel forced, even though we know that they're all going to get together this time. So it's just interesting to me to see it all work out.
Yeah, yeah. And I think as fans, we were all getting kind of impatient for the group to get back together too. We're
Yeah.
like, okay, all
Yeah.
right, these have kind of all played their parts and their roles, but like let's get the group back together. We've got to further the overarching goal, which is this whole apogee solstice thing that's happening with lewdness. So we got to get back on the path.
Yep. I agree. Well, let's keep going. Let's see where we are now. So we are back on this one. All right. State of things. Morning comes. They did that. Hurry up and wait. Okay. So reunion. So this is where they're
We
actually getting
didn't
a chance.
we didn't do hurry up and wait.
Oh, they go to the Spire by Fire. That's right. Thank you. Which is being utilized as a temporary soldier barracks. That's right. So they see the soldiers that are there. They're from all over. They're seeing that there's people from the Menagerie Coast all the way in Taldori and all over the place. The soldiers don't seem to know all the details. as people are trying to talk to them, they're kind of like, hey, we'll know what we need to do when we're sent where we need to go. Imogen goes outside and looks at Ruidus and feels that faint pull again. She messages Zudana, who is the landlady that she and Laudna kind of started with, and she hasn't seen Laudna. But this is a bigger concern because sending works over short distances, it seems, what they're trying to find out. And then Frida gives Imogen a drink and tells her that home can be people, it doesn't have to be a place, and they think that Imogen will be home soon. So meanwhile, with the other group, we've got the tree opening up in the garden and the Lucent Spire, and the team is the team Isora is back to Drusar. So from there, Prism is still hang gliding on Mother the Raven because of her big jump at the end of that episode. She thought she was going somewhere else, but hey, this is where they are. She doesn't mind still being with them for now. She wants to study. She wants to figure out what's going on with Ruidus, find out information about the gods and the Eidolons. So she's very intrigued. She's got that inquisitive mind going. So they suggest, hey, why don't you go to the Starpoint Conservatory or the Prakish Pyre or any of these places that are sort of places of higher learning and study. And she's like, I'm going to lie and say I'm a high-ranking Cult Soul member, which is really funny, as she does this many times. And then they head to a working gondola, interrogate a courier, and says, hey, the solstice was celebratory when no one was shunted. The quorum notified the citizens that they made alliances due to the moon, and they think that there should be, strangers and increased security around. You have to expect this. Prism invites Laudna to the Shadow Realm to celebrate the Night of Ascension, the holiday for the Matron of Ravens. When the group finally arrives at Spire by File, they spot their friends at the table. Laudna and Imogen are kind of heading and rushing to each other to hug each other. Orem springs into the air, throws himself at Fern, who is still a raccoon dog, and then they start to introduce each other. Fern announces that they have a threesome. Imogen makes it clear that she was not involved. Prism tells them all that she punched a man to death. They figure, you know what, let's go speak privately. So they head to their rooms. So let's break there, and then we'll get to the comparing notes section. But I didn't mention, if I haven't already mentioned, I'm reading through some of this stuff to keep us on track. We do this every time. Big prop to Danny Carr for writing all of these recaps for everybody. You can go to critroll.com to find the critical recap. If you can't catch our show to hear what we think, you can at least read to see what happened, but catch our show and hear what we think. So, all right. So, thoughts on this reunion, or at least the initial stages of this?
Well, at least we're in the same city, at this point. They walk through the tree. They're in Drusar, and they see that some of the gondolas aren't working as well, but they happen to find one that's working. I couldn't remember that word earlier, gondola. But they end up in the gondola with this one guy, and they're just interrogating this dude. Like, he's supposed to know, this one person that they see, he's supposed to know what everything, what all is happening. The first person that they meet. So they're terrifying this poor guy to death. And he finally ends up being able to get off and running away. But, they're seeing such an increase in all of the soldiers and all the military presence. And it's really, again, how Matt described it is that you're seeing armored soldiers from all different places, different emblems from Dawnfather, or from, whoever it is that their group happens to follow religiously, or the old gods, whichever. And then they just go straight to Spire by Fire, which is where the other group is, which is great because, it goes ahead and it gets the reunion happening. Everybody's really happy to see each other. It was really cute whenever Orem throws himself at Fern because he doesn't realize in game that she is still a raccoon dog. But once he jumps at her, Matt's like, yeah, she's still a raccoon dog. And he's like, oh, okay. So, and she had gone over and sat at a table with the soldiers to eavesdrop.
Yeah.
So
As the raccoon dog, I think they
yeah,
were like,
as the
"Oh, this
raccoon
is a
dog.
cute dog," and like, yeah,
So they gleaned some information from that, from her sitting there and hearing in on the soldiers, and they heard that they were all heading out north or so, like they're all headed
yeah.
in one direction. Everybody's going the next day. So she told the group that stuff, and then the next thing you know, the other group comes in. So they had their happy reunion.
It is a very happy reunion. It's funny to me that like every time Fern changes into something, I usually have to look it up to see,
Yes.
because I've heard about things, but it's just
Yeah.
like periphery.
Ashley
So,
always picks really weird, interesting animals.
yep,
You're like, is that even a real thing? And then you go and Google, and sure enough, it is. So
yep. And I think she's you know, I don't know, I think she's a big animal lover in general. You can kind of tell.
yeah, she
When they
is.
do that. So, all right. So here we go. So now we're comparing notes. So we'll go through a couple of these just to get us where we need to go. Making good time going through this. Orem informs the others that they traveled with someone from the Ruby Vanguard. So this is where they're starting to really kind of lay out. This is what's happened to them. And this person betrayed them. Team Isra had a terrible experience the whole time. Team Wildmount had high points and low points. Prism and Laudna mentioning killing an angel of the Dawn Father and freeing the town from some of the, let's say, basically that order of the Dawn Father kind of keeping everybody underfoot.
Yeah.
And sort of being militaristic. And Deanna leaves the room during that because her feelings and her relationship with the Dawn Father is pretty complicated, and she's like, just gotta get out of there. Laudna points out that it was sort of transactional, and Orem says he's never seen a church control a town like that before, meaning that something's different with what's going on. Team Wildmount settled Chetney's conflict with Ultgar, and they met the King and Queen of Uthadurn. FCG met his god, the Changebringer, made him feel special. And FCG thinks that gods are people who make mistakes and who need help right now. And Team Isora met the Eidolons, and Team Wildmount traveled to the Savalier Wood. So like there's all these things that are happening on. And when they went to the Savalier Wood, they found information directly about Ludinus within his tower, even notes and things like that. Orem and Laudna and Ashton are surprised to meet another Aormaton because Frida's there, and they're seeing someone very much like FCG. And then they find out that his name is Faithful Caregiver. And they also kind of talk about the fact that Frida was assigned to protect the Malleus Key in Aor, and that's the device that was being used for what's going on with Ruidus by Ludinus and everything else. And then they find out Frida and FCG are a couple. All these things that we have seen play out over time, which I thought was great. We'll move into questions, and then we'll stop for a break. But meanwhile, Deanna has set up this commune ritual, and she communes with the Dawn Father, and she asks if her god, or asks her if working with Bell's Hells will actually save them, and the Dawn Father isn't certain. Then, in a baller move, she asks if his disciples are interpreting harm in the world as behest, and he says they will do what's necessary. But then her last question, are you worth saving? Which is, I thought, just one of the best things. And then she's kind of pushed out of that communion with an immense force, throws her back. She goes back to the others. They're discussing the Nexus points. And they find out there's about 23 of them across Exandria before the solstice. Prism suspects that the information they have about Prodathos might be rooted in mythos and filtered through the god's point of view. Ludinus's notes mention the temples wanting them to avoid Rudis. So let's chat a little bit about what we find out.
Well,
yeah.
They start comparing notes, and it does seem like one team had it a little bit more rough than the other team, but they still, both sides accomplished a lot. But it in one group, we've got all of the healers, the clerics that follow certain gods. Deanna's is the Dawn Father, and FCG's is the Changebringer. And then this other group murdered an angel of the Dawn Father. So it's like, ooh, it's a little touchy. We've got somebody who's devout enough that their God has lended them powers or given them powers. And then this other group is just, right away going into how they killed all of these people, including an angel and these judicators of the Dawnfather. What I find really interesting is when Deanna goes off on her own, and it's not necessarily like she's mad at the group, but she wants some answers. And so she heads off and communes with the Dawnfather. And really, the questions that she asked were really good, but while it was happening, I was like, oh no, she's not going to have her powers when we get done. Like, she's going to have made him so mad that he's going to be like, bye. Even though he raised her from, like, there's got to be something going on, right? He raised her from the dead 200 years ago to be his cleric. So at least she kind of has that. She must be important to him. There must be something about her, or there, like, she's got to be something special. Otherwise, why would he just choose her and her soul? So, I feel like I don't know if anybody else could have gotten away with the questions that she asked without being stripped of their powers. But
I think, probably so. I think it's also, I think it's important what she did, because she was someone that is of the Dawnfather, but then when she hears about what's going on and what people are doing in his name and everything that happened from that other group, she's like questioning, and I think that's, I don't know, that's just, personally, it's always a thing with me. I always think questioning is a good thing. Like, you always need to ask what you're there. But for her as a character to really push and question things is the right time to do it, in my perspective, from a story, in a story arc perspective too, because this is the time when all of these big questions are really coming to a head. Like, when you've got somebody that is trying to tear down this eternal structure almost of how things are working, and then you've got the people that are followers on both sides of this conflict kind of coming into play. Because you saw on one side, or in one group, you saw someone that was a follower of lewdness's path, and when you get down to it, like, why was he doing it? The reasons aren't like really far-fetched. He was doing it because of the way things played out for him. And so you look at it from that perspective and you're like, man, I can understand what's going on.
Right.
But then you look at how the rest of the group reacted to what happened. And the same thing here, like when you see when she saw a glimpse of what was happening with her God, she immediately left the room and question it. So I just thought it was really well played. I thought she did a great job in that moment of like really pulling it together. So yeah.
Well, and in one case, we see one group who is encountering people who are blindly following, they're blindly pushing their agenda forward for what they perceive their agenda from their God. It's oppression, it's push. We don't care about the little guys. Like, we're going to do what we need to do to further our namesake, so to speak. And then the other group, you see, one cleric, same God, but that is like, no, what's going on with this? Are people doing this in your name and you haven't stopped them? Like, so I really feel like with the group, it's not a question of whether or not to save the gods. It's, we don't like lewdness and how lewdness is going. The overarching thing that they can all agree on is that it's lewdness himself. Whatever he's doing needs to be stopped because, again, he's murdering people. He's furthering his, mad scheme to kill the gods, bring them all down. We're not questioning whether or not they need to be brought down. Really? Not really. Most of the group doesn't have a tie strong enough that they're willing to fight hard for their side of things, So I feel like that was one step with Deanna in the wrong direction for the Dawnfather.
Yeah, It's a great point. Like, there weren't too many people in the group that had a dog in the fight, but now there may be. Like, we don't know after what they went through separately.
Yeah.
We don't know how, when push comes to shove, what's FCG gonna do?
Yeah.
Like when people that have made a final connection to their god or whatever, like FCG is the only true cleric in the group, right? So and for a while didn't have that, and then found out, oh, I have a soul, and oh, I have that, like, found connection with another one like them, and so it's interesting because, like, at what point do you say my belief trumps this other cause? Yes, Ludinus is doing the wrong thing, and he's doing it the wrong way, and he's hurting people. But like a good example of this is and I think we talk about it. They talk about it more. We'll save it for the next show, or when we get into it, because it's a little bit more about what happened with Laudna and Orem. But yeah, let's see if we can wrap up, because we still have the other one to go through before they start tonight at our time, 10 o'clock, whatever time it is when they go live for you. We want to make sure we're finished before they go. Open wounds. So Prism and Deanna are willing to gather information, even in Vasselheim. Prism can use her fake status as a high-ranking member of the Cobalt Soul, and Deanna is a cleric, so they can work together. Orem asked Deanna to scry on Keyleth using remnants of the message bloom that she got, which was really cool. And not only does that happen, but I think they even restore that little seed at some point, which is really cool. Deanna sees Keyleth in her bedroom, and Zephyra, she nearly falls. She's weak. She's wounded from the fight, and it looks like her wounds are not healing. Everybody's told her to rest, but she says she's got to speak with others. So yeah, there's a lot going on there. And she has a black feather hanging from a tapestry, and then she leaves when she's done with that. So like I said, Deanna casts Mending on the message bloom, so it's reforming it, returns it back to Orem. And it may be the toxin that Odahan used that is keeping Keyleth from healing. Deanna also informs him that resurrection magic is not working, because half the group knew that, the other half didn't, so letting everybody know is important. Prism and Deanna are going to go research while the others return to the Tishtan excavation site, and maybe the Ashari could have some more information on this. So then in this choice and trust section, Frida is torn on where they go. They can't lose Deanna, but they don't really trust Prism yet. They promise FCG that they'll make their way back to them. FCG considers flipping the coin, but Laudna says that FCG, you need to make your own choice. He knows what to do, and he has to save his god so she can help people. They decide not to flip the coin. They go with Bell's Hells. Prism and FCG talk to each other about trust. FCG truly cares about Frida, and then they kind of talk about how they want to be together, and they make each other happy. And since they don't have time to build trust, Prism promises FCG that she will bring Frida back, as long as FCG promises that they will bring her new best friend Orem back too, which is great the way that played out. And they agree to this deal, and Prism teaches FCG how to smoke, gives them a pack of cigarettes, which is kind of wacky. And then finally, it's not goodbye. A bunch of farewells. Frida tells Chetney that they look up to them, remind him to stay hungry. Chetney tells them if they turn into a werewolf, he's there for them. Because, kind of back in mind, if we remember, there was that time where Chetney attacked Frida, and then potentially Frida can turn. Basically, Laudna gives the corset, or Deanna reminds Imogen to give Laudna her corset. Imogen gives Prism her Starpoint conservatory letter so she can disguise herself, and Ashton hugs Deanna. Deanna and Imogen are trying to keep in touch and communicate. So there's just all these things that are going on. Deanna casts Death Ward on Chetney and Fern. Laudna thinks that she and Prism are close friends now. Prism says that Laudna's greatest strength is in overcoming her pain. And then as they kind of are wrapping up this episode, she casts enlarge on Orem and make him like 6'6", and like he starts immediately like doing pull-ups on the rafters and stuff. It's pretty funny. And then gives Ashton some things to meditate. And then the three of them leave together. Deanna begins covering up every symbol of the Dawnfather on her armor, which is really interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thoughts on that as we are about to move into the next episode. But what do you think as we wrap that one up?
I mean, overall, I think the biggest thing in there is just the parting of Frida and FCG. And FCG has this dilemma because they've found new love that they think is lifetime and long lasting, but they don't know whether to stay and help Bell's Hells or go with Frida. Well, if they decide to go with Frida, then once again, we don't have a dedicated healer in the group. So it really would probably have hurt Bell's Hells a lot for him to have left, or them to have left to go with Frida and Deanna. But I think overall, we've seen some character progression, with the fact that they ended up deciding not to flip the coin and just making the choice on their own. That was the right choice, versus leaving it up to chance with the Changebringer or their god. So that was great. They said goodbye, but not for, forever. And then, they just had discussion with Prism, and she's so funny to me. She's going to go infiltrate and learn as much as she can in a library somewhere, not putting herself in much harm's way, but also realizing like she's got a great head for research and understanding the history of things. And she wants to help from that end of the angle versus you just randomly being out there killing people. Yeah. But then, they're just, I don't know, it's just kind of like bittersweet. I don't think that the one group has got like a super great understanding of really what they're off to do and where they're going, but with the hopes that they can send information back and cover more ground. And then the big thing was Deanna covering up all of her Dawnfather symbols, because that's what a cleric is there for. And if they're not doing their job, which is to further their goal of their god, it gets them in murky waters. So
yeah, and it makes you wonder, like, is she doing that as a defiance to the Dawnfather, or is she doing that to be undercover so that she's not like having everybody see, if she's got to go into the area where people are more followers of lewdness, so that she's not outed right immediately. So it's interesting to see how it plays out. Also made me think that this is, it could be both. I think you're right. It's interesting that this is a perfect opportunity for like almost like a spin-off campaign, right? Like where they could do EXU with just this group.
Yeah,
where,
definitely.
Like Matt could run some games for this group as they're going off, which would be great.
Border comes back from the grave. No, just kidding.
What's that?
I said Border comes back from the grave.
Oof, man. Yeah. Or maybe they bring him back to play a different character. Who knows? But
yeah, he was great. I want him to come back. Utkarsh, he was awesome.
Yeah, great player. All right, so in
it gets interesting now.
Path of Vengeance. What's that?
I said it's about to get really interesting now.
Yeah, so grievances. The Bell's Hells are finally together. Laudna is basically all the things that we just said. I'm going to paraphrase even this paraphrase because I think that it's important. There's the basic premise of this episode at the beginning was Laudna kind of losing it a little bit, and I don't blame her for saying, you guys basically had threesomes and fun and all this other stuff. Now they had some things happen.
And shopping.
Her perspective is shopping. They had nothing but bad things happen to her side of things while she was traveling. Right. So she kind of like, airs that grievance a little bit by saying, whoa, slow down, guys. What's interesting is that group had less episodes too. So they had, in a shorter period of time of them playing, they had a lot of crazy stuff happen. So it was just difficult to hear that people had fun while they were going through that. Ashton wanted to go to visit Milo, and Orem wanted to check on Keyleth. So lots of things that they were trying to do there. Imogen explains that Ludinus's harness was something that they found that's supposed to eat the Fey energy. Laudna and Orem talk about Hearthdale. FCG is really put off by the fact that they attacked the temple, and they're also sad about what happened with Frida, and feeling guilty about Laudna being where she is. FCG is also feeling a little stressed with everything. So the group splits up and they go to research and to relax a little bit. Ashton and FCG go to see Milo, who has been dealing with his own stuff there. Like, a lot of the creations have not been working right, and they've been firing off in different ways or not working all together. The workshop is all kind of in disarray, and Milo has been trying to catch up with all the stuff that's been going on there. Ashton requests an upgrade to his hammer, basically, and drops it off. And then Milo's going to work on that over the next couple days, day and a half or so. FCG talks to Ashton while they grab some clothes, and Ashton doesn't want to be worthless or ineffective right now. So it's time for them to stand up and do something about it. And FCG is really glad that they're finding purpose. And he doesn't like having things to lose. So he's going to fight for all of them, and is proud that FCG found love and a reason to live. Nice moment between the two of them. Just kind of reaffirming that they're a family. And let's pause there. We'll head over.
Yeah. So I think one of my favorite parts of the whole episode was just how well Marisha played Laudna's reaction. Like, Laudna was pissed. She was mad. She was upset. She's like, you guys went shopping. You had threesomes. You met royalty. You got custom fitted for clothes, and you did all of these you met Santa Claus.
Yeah.
and then every single second of their existence was hell.
Yeah.
Literally everything they did. She lost her mind on this trip and reopened whatever connection she had with Delilah because things got so bad. I mean, they killed an angel. They ransacked a whole temple. They killed all these holy people. It's just one thing after another. And then they're like, here's a corset that we had made for you with these, tailors that the royalty they paid for, the king and the queen of Uthadern, and Laudna was like, what the hell? What?
Yeah.
You did what? So that was done great, because it would have been my same exact reaction. I would have been like, you did a what? I don't think so. Don't even talk to me about your whatever you did. So, and then Ashton goes off with FCG to visit Milo and to get his hammer upgraded. But I think this is the lightest, best mood we've seen. Like, he's weirdly buoyant and happy, and I really think that the character himself left that fight with the angel different. He took something really pivotal away from that fight, and I think it has changed how he looks at himself. So we're seeing a much more upbeat, kind of more focused Ashton. Like, he knows what he's doing now.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's come to terms with some things and just made some decisions to move forward with some things I think maybe he's been hung up on before, or at least been sort of wandering on in his life. And I think it's good that he seems to have found a group that he considers family at this point, and that it's helping to give him purpose, I think, which is I think what he needed to kind of pull himself together. So yeah, it was interesting to me. I think the other I think you hit the nail on the head with how Marisha really played it well, but Laudna put to words what probably a lot of people were thinking. It's man, they just came through some really heavy shit, it was not easy. So
No.
Yeah, I'm happy that they were able to at least express that. We're not happy, but I'm glad that they were able to put it into words. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, all right, well, let's keep it going.
The bread
The bread
aisle.
aisle. So Imogen and Laudna head back to Zadana. Happy to see him. They're kind of going shopping for, and um, Laudna apologizes for being frustrated, and Imogen can't get over not being able to hear Laudna's thought because she's got that circlet now that blocks it out, which is great. And Laudna tells her, just to ask because she'll share what she's thinking willingly. And Imogen asks Laudna if she can kiss her, and she can't tell if she's all right anymore, and they just kiss, which is
Woo!
out of nowhere,
Long
right?
time coming. Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. So Laudna cares deeply for Imogen. She kind of felt adrift without her. She's worried that she's a bad person, though, because of what she's been through. Imogen says, you're not a bad person. They're each other's tethers. Laudna also explains that Bordor's betrayal broke her, and they kind of think, or she thinks, that Laudna has come back, and she feels that she's portrayed everything that, or she thinks that Delilah, right, has come back. Sorry.
Yeah.
So Laudna thinks that she's sort of betrayed everything that they've done for her to kind of rid her of Delilah. Imogen promises that it's not a betrayal, and they'll all make it right again. Part of Laudna thinks that they could use Delilah to kind of help get through all this stuff. Imogen understands that because her power stems from Ruidus, and she's not sure that she wants that to end because she loses her power. So it's a lot of tricky layers to this. Maybe it's her destiny to harness it instead of fight it. So they'll work together to figure out what's going on with that. Propaganda in fashion. This is while they're going on, they see the illusion of Ludinus giving a speech, rising above the laws of gods, and two wardens arrive, and they get a crystal sphere out of the fountain. They smash it. They end the illusion. But this isn't the first time that this has happened, and we've heard of other things throughout the travels of people hearing the voice and seeing things. So propaganda is spreading everywhere. Laudna and Imogen go shop for Laudna's new dress. She's got her corset with the embroidered flowers, so she gets dark purple off the shoulder dress, lace collar, something nice. And Laudna uses her belt, the same one that Delilah dressed her with in the Sun Tree, to fashion the dollhouse into a backpack, which is fun. So
it's cute.
let's stop there and we'll pick up with Drusar gossip. But yeah.
So they finally kissed, guys.
Yeah.
I think everybody this whole time has been speculating that maybe they were in a relationship or they were romantic feeling towards each other. But this is really the first time we're seeing anything other than BFFs. So, that was a big defining moment. Everybody was like, oh, and then Marisha even fell out of her chair because she really tried to craft a character that was unromanceable because she's had romance in the last two seasons or two shows.
She's like, I made an undead
oh
woman,
my God.
Guys.
She's like, I make someone whose flesh is falling off of her bones and her hair is falling out in handfuls.
Yeah.
And she carries around a dead rat as a pet, and somehow she still finds love. Go figure.
So yeah.
But they really they're almost like this, like two sides of a coin. They have so many things that are in common. Laudna thinks that she needs to harness. At this point, she's thinking maybe Delilah coming back's not a bad thing. And then Imogen's also thinking, maybe killing the gods isn't a bad thing either. Yeah. But, I guess we'll see. Both of them get their power from these other things that if they go away, they don't know if they'll be the same people. And then, of course, Pate getting a little backpack was cute. But,
Yeah, I think so too. And I also think that it was perfect timing for them to stumble on. Matt's so good at this. It was perfect timing for them to stumble on the whole Crystal with the hologram image thing of Ludinus, because
Yeah.
it made them immediately kind of like snap back to, oh, this is what's happening after their
Right.
adventure together and their little moment. They were able to like go, oh, wait a minute, like this is now what's happening, and people are hearing this news. So not only are they fighting a war like of power upon power, but it's also a war of trying to, which I guess it's always been this, but trying to capture the minds of people, right? Like
Right.
that's where this war is
Yeah.
really being fought. Because I don't know how this works in Matt's world, but like when, like, in some fantasy settings, whenever followers of a god, the number of followers decrease, the power of the god decreases, like they're fed by the prayers
Right. Right.
and the faith. So it makes you wonder if that's part of what's going on, to build enough doubt to weaken them.
Yes.
I don't know if that's how it works in his world, but it seems like it's possible, right? Just to sow the doubt in everybody's minds to weaken them enough that they can,
Yeah.
do what they need to do.
Well, and now we know how he's doing it too, because before we didn't know how he was popping up in all these different places.
Yeah. At least this way. We've got one way. Maybe there's others, but
right.
It seems to me he's got backup plans upon backup plans. But
I agree.
Yeah.
He's had millennia to plan.
Yeah, we're only seeing the bits and pieces of the picture. I think there's more to this iceberg. So, okay, so Drusar gossip. So Fern, Orem, and Chetney head to the Dial Hall to speak with their friend Ajit, who, this is interesting too. So they've been keeping busy with the children of the school and trying to keep everyone safe, and tells them that people are scared, and the quorum has been assuring everybody that things are under control, but there's a bunch of armies around and things are happening. So they've been allying with a bunch of figures from all over. So that's part of the layers of what's going on here. The Doomsayers are calling this the second calamity, which is something you and I had talked about before, that this feels like it's the second calamity.
Yes.
And so while they're spreading rumors that this was orchestrated by Stratus Throne, so again, here's more information going around, but we know that Ludinus also made a lot of movements behind the background in parallel with what he was doing. So some of the magically held prisoners have escaped, like when the magic started running amok. Like people that were being held by magic are gone now, like Leftonia, the Ivory Syndicate's leader, the Prakish Pyre, the Dawnfather Temple. A lot of those, they lit its flame. Ajit is expecting a rise in violence because of all the confusion that's going on. So they speak with Ajit's mentor, Darman, and he can't identify the harness that Ludinus had. They don't know what it is. And then they confirm that Ajit didn't hear Ludinus speaking during the solstice, so it seems that his speech was only heard in proximity to the ley line nexus points, maybe. Fern is interested in seeing the Dusk Maven Temple, so they head to the Smolder Spire. On the way to the temple, Chetney catches a scent and races after the smell, can't control himself. Turns out that there is a scarred dwarven bounty hunter, touches a pouch, and like it snares him in this silver net. We've got a battle going on here. We've got Fern and all this stuff going on with like trying to capture him. Yeah, lots of crazy stuff going on there. Moving quick because we only have a few minutes. Man,
there's a lot in that episode. Yeah,
so let's scroll through, and then we'll jump over and hit the key things that we want to talk about. Dusk Maven Temple was a big deal. So may not have all the answers, but the priest invites them to drink the waters. They head to the waterfall. All three of them drink.
Yeah.
Meditate for a few minutes. Then the doors fly open. Sky is deep red above the excavation site. Lonely Tower fires a red beam into the sky, same thing that we saw before, right? And the doors close and it appears as a white mask. They come out of their vision, and the priest explains that the Dusk Maven's followers are in mourning for one of their own. We assume that they're talking about
Vaxeldan.
Vexeldan. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Or Vaxeldan. Yeah, so Chetney asks how they can help with the fight, and they say faith. So they get together. They talk about what happened to everybody. They're on the fence about the gods. They're trying to figure out what's going to happen. Yeah, so they're trying to scry on each other. So let's jump over. Let's just give final thoughts.
Yeah.
Before we end this. So yeah, so what are your thoughts on how this thing came to an end?
We got more information.
Yeah.
Which was great. That's why everything was so long, is because there was just a lot more information gathering in the episode. But they go to the Dusk Maiden, yeah, the temple. They drink the water. Then they have this vision that's really, you could tell, like, everybody there is in great mourning. There's screaming happening, and I'm guessing that that's Vaxeldan himself. Either he's the one screaming, or the Raven Queen, or whoever, somebody in that realm is just in anguish. And then they end up, is that the vision where they're on the moon?
So yeah, they have that one as well, right? So
Yeah.
I
they
think it was
they
because of, yeah.
Well, I think they ended up at the end, they scryed on Ludinus and they couldn't get him, but then they were able to scry on her mother, Imogen's
right.
mother, and she was on the moon with Ludinus. And then they scryed on the Nightmare King, and
Yep.
he is also on the moon in a separate location, talking with people there. So
And
there are
one of the
people that
he's
have
talking to is the what'd you call it, being the being from the moon that we think of.
Oh yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyways,
yeah,
the beings that Imogen can summon.
That's right. Yeah.
The Rylora. And so it's really cool that what they've suspected so far, they know for a fact that there is transportation and exchange happening between the moon and the plane, Exandria. So that's kind of where we ended up leaving it off, was, Ludinus isn't on Exandria right now. He's up in the moon. So
yeah. And what I'm not sure, like, is technically same plane of existence, since right, like, so it's just a different location, geography, right? So it's not like they're in a different realm. So that's right. It's always a little tricky thing, right, to figure out, like,
yep.
I wonder what the Fey realm looks like on Ruidus, or if that's even a thing. Like, if you know what I mean, if you pass over into that realm in that location, how that works.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
And, like, what would it look like from Ruidus, since Ruidus is peeking into the Fey realm,
Yeah.
It'd be really cool.
I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see how this pops up tonight. And when I say tonight, we've got 2 minutes. So
2 minutes, guys.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for sticking with us. I know we had a double episode this time. Next week, same time, we'll do 9 p.m. Eastern on Thursday night, leading into this time Candela Obscura. So we will do our recap of the second episode of Candela Obscura as we go into the third episode, I think, and final of chapter 1 for Candela Obscura, which will be a week from today at 10 p.m. Eastern. So thanks for sticking with us, everybody, and yeah, we will catch you next time.
Bye.